So if anyone has any questions, you're probably going to have to stand up and wave because I can't see anything. Put this thing right in my eyes. Yeah. Doesn't matter to me. Yeah. So my name's Andrew Hay. I'm the Chief Evangelist at CloudPassage. I'll go over a little bit of my background just to kind of set the tone. What I'm going to be talking about is automating secure server baselines using Puppet. Now, I overheard someone earlier today say, I'm an enthusiast and user, but I'm not a developer. So I'm not a developer. I've managed developers. I'm definitely not a developer. I really like Puppet. I'm a big fan of it. Have I implemented it? Not so much. It's on my to-do list. I'm a really, really swamped guy. But I can really see the benefits of using Puppet hand in hand with the security of your servers to create baselines so that we don't have open holes all over the world. And that's really the goal of this talk, is to make fixing that stupid stuff really easy. And you can do that with Puppet. So these are some of the topics we're going to cover. I understand we only have a half hour, so I'm keeping you guys from your break if I go over, so you guys have to keep me in line, keep me going. So who am I? I'm the Chief Evangelist at a cloud startup here in San Francisco. I am Canadian, so no about jokes or making fun of Canada or anything, because I'm much bigger than pretty much all of you. And I've played rugby for 10 years, so pain's not really a problem. I moved down here first week of August. I'm the Chief Evangelist. I talk about cloud security. I've been doing security for many years. I worked for a university in the Information Security Office in the University of Western Ontario. I picked up my wife and moved to Bermuda for a year. Sounds pretty awesome. It wasn't. Worked in the Information Security Office at a privately held bank where the owners of the bank were also the majority in Parliament, so nothing ever really saw the light of day if things went wrong, so security wasn't really that big a problem if it got out in the open. I worked for a startup, Q1 Labs. It got acquired by IBM. I didn't see a dime. And I worked at a whole bunch of internet service providers in Ottawa, where I grew up in Ontario. Various sizes, doing a lot of Linux administration, PHP development, Cold Fusion development. Still have nightmares about that. I also wrote 3 books. 3 books that you guys have probably never read and probably never will read. So cloud. Who here uses cloud? About 4 or 5 people. Awesome. A lot of people see cloud for their business as this way to save all these costs, get rid of physical servers, consolidate data centers, consolidate virtual infrastructure, ship everything off. And as soon as you start hearing about shipping it off, saving money, the CIOs and CFOs are like, awesome, yeah, let's do that now, because we're going to save a whole bunch of money, and I like to save money because it makes me look good. We don't really reduce risk, though, when we do that. Like, we're not taking that into consideration. That's always an afterthought or farther down on the checklist than saving money. Now, cloud does present some challenges. A lot of benefits, though. Like, you can, ideally, you'd want to have a gold master image that you could deploy in your data center and in public, private, hybrid cloud environments, and there would be nothing different between them, just because it'd be so awesome for your security policy. It'd be less documentation, less procedures to write, and it'd just be easier to maintain. The reality is, it is different. Now, this is what we're used to in the old world of security. We have these fancy network devices to protect us from the evils of the world. The malicious attackers will come in, we won't let them in, they'll get deflected by our network devices. These things are locked off, they're safe, everyone's happy. Don't let the exclamations fool you, those are supposed to be green check marks. But what happens with cloud once we start moving these out here? Well, we have these advanced deployment scenarios now where we have a private data center. We're like, okay, well, we're going to put some stuff over in this cloud provider because You know, we have a web presence and there's a lot of shopping happening this particular time of year. And we're gonna put these servers out there because it's gonna save us a whole lot of money to deploy out here as opposed to buying physical inventory, spinning it up, maintaining it. We can just keep these for a very short period of time, temporary workload, and then shut them down after the season. And then we'll start moving some over to another cloud provider because, hey, they're giving us a better rate than the other one. So we're gonna spin out more over here. We're gonna save even more money. But we don't have these traditional security controls. And the idea of multiple cloud environments is great from a cost savings perspective. And there's a lot of people who here, like, does anyone use any of the big automation tools out there for cloud stuff? No? So the idea is we will be in a world someday where public cloud is going to be all utility billing and they're going to be battling back and forth just like our utility providers. I offer the lowest from this time to this time. No, I offer the lowest from this time to this time. So as a consumer, you can shop around and say, okay, well, from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., I'm going to use cloud provider A, and then I'm going to switch over to this cloud provider for a few hours and save like 0.002 cents on the hour and just kind of ship it around. And that's all well and good, but how are you going to manage security across all these disparate clouds that don't really know about one another, and their security controls are different and their hypervisors are different? Is that going to be a problem for your applications? Do you have to update your physical infrastructure to handle DNS and all this stuff? It's kind of an administrative nightmare when you think about it, but it saves money. So our perimeter defenses always kept us seemingly secure. I think if you've read news on the internet, you know that's not really true. The biggest problem with this whole moving to cloud thing is that our perimeter doesn't really exist anymore. At least our physical perimeter is gone. We don't have those artificial walls to keep us safe. We are really on the network edge. And being on the network edge, well, there's not really much stopping potential attackers from trying to get into our systems. Now, this is kind of where the host takes a little bit of its clout back. We started out really caring about protecting the host, and then we pushed things off to the network because it was easier. We could take, instead of doing a one-to-one protection for hosts, we could put a network device in there and we could protect entire subnets or entire organizations, which administratively seemed like a great idea, may not offer the same level of protection of doing host to host. I love this picture. So what is a base, or why secure the OS? Why do we want to secure the OS? Does anyone know? Why would we care about securing the OS versus putting artificial network controls in to protect things?
In case the controls fail.
In case the controls fail, all right.
Because in the end, that's the target. They usually have a target network unless they're trying to take your network down.
Awesome. That's a really good answer. So the answer was the endpoint is the ultimate target. They're not attacking your firewalls unless they're just trying to denial service or just disrupt your organization. They want, if they're attacking the end host, why not protect at the end host? The other controls are compensating or even mitigating controls along the way that add a lot of friction, but ultimately you need to protect the endpoint, which is why we keep money in banks, because we want to protect our money. So this concept of hardening the end host, it's definitely not new. It's been around for years. I saw Gene come in. Gene, how long's it been around? I like screwing with Gene because he's always typing, and this distracts him from typing. Decades of securing the endpoint. So I really like this comment here, and I pulled this from a state security policy from I can't remember what organization it was, but by definition, any machine that is accessible on a network and running services is potentially insecure, i.e. pretty much any server. They had this in their documentation. Pretty much any server. It's susceptible to, or it has the potential to be attacked by internal entities, external entities. And by securing the OS, if you take anything from this slide, We want to reduce the attack surface area. We want to shrink how much we have exposed. Just like football. Anyone here watch football? I played rugby, so this analogy doesn't work that well. But in football, you wear a lot of pads to protect yourself, to restrict the amount of damage that can happen to your exposed skin, bones, nose. In rugby, we wear shorts and socks and boots and a jersey, and that's it. And a smile, a bloody, bloody smile. So just like in football, we should treat our servers the same way. We want to restrict what's available to be attacked or to be damaged from the outside. Now, these aren't really laws, but, and I'll tell you a funny story about this actually. So we have secure servers, we have insecure servers, and then we have servers that you think are secure. Before working for a professional organization where I was the front man, I used to refer to these as secure servers, turds, and polished turds. And it's true, you think about it, hey, this server is great, we polish this turd up, it's gonna be fine, but it's still a turd. It's just a really shiny turd. So they made me take those pictures off. I had nice little icons of shiny turds and everything. So, yeah, maybe if you want, I can send you those slides. So servers are vulnerable. They're always going to be vulnerable. There's always going to be vulnerabilities. So I was in Vegas. Anyone heard of B-Sides security conference? They have it here in town. They're kind of popping up all over the place. So I was in in Vegas for Black Hat and B-Sides. And I was on the shuttle bus over to B-Sides from Caesars. And the bus driver's like, oh, well, where are you going? I'm like, oh, I'm going to a security conference. Oh, like money securities, which is what everyone always says. Like, no, like computer security. He's like, oh yeah, I don't trust computers. I'm like, oh, well, why not? He's like, well, if it was made by man, it can be broken by man. This guy's a bus driver. That was one of the most astute things I've heard in relation to security in probably 10 years. Like, that's awesome. If it's created by man, it can be broken by man. And it's true. And that's why our servers are continuously flawed. Our applications are flawed. So I went to the National Vulnerability Database, just because of the audience. I did a search for Ubuntu. Last 3 years, 788 matching records, 4 vulnerabilities reported. Last 3 months, 100. That's a lot just for Ubuntu over the last 3 months. Red Hat, last 3 years, 1,910. Last 3 months, 288. Also kind of a lot. I tried to do Windows and it broke the National Vulnerability Database. It sat there for about a half hour and then I couldn't access the search feature anymore. So that should tell you something just about how many vulnerabilities could potentially get returned back. So I also got this stat from someone else. National Vulnerability Database reported 3,532 vulnerabilities in 2011 across servers, applications, workstations, the whole shebang. But 3,500, that's a pretty substantial number. And this might be most of this, but it's hard to say. So 10 new security vulnerabilities discovered each day. And these are the people that are looking for the vulnerabilities. These aren't the vulnerabilities that people are hanging on to use or to sell on the public market. Because there's companies spinning up now that do vulnerability research and sell them to governments for use in testing for, I'm not going to say cyber war, but warfare, electronic warfare. So there's a lot of vulnerabilities out there. These are the ones we know about. Now, a baseline. Who here has done baselining of servers before in your many years of system administrative type work? Fun, isn't it? Isn't it great creating a secure baseline to only have to recreate it 3 months later and then recreate it 3 months later, or not just keep patching all those servers and then start reinstalling those servers with the baseline from 2 years ago that isn't really up to par anymore? Good times, good times. So really, bare minimum. It's a bare minimum configuration. So you, as an organization, should decide, what is applicable. What is the bare minimum baseline that we want to create to roll out to all of our servers? how much tolerance do we have to patch these servers after we have the baseline? So it's a baseline plus day, number of days. So we've got the baseline plus 200 days, which means that we have to run, we have to do updates on all of our applications. We have to check the configurations to see if they've changed from the versions. We have to install new software that wasn't included in the baseline. But we can keep going back and creating a baseline over time, something that Puppet can help us do quite easily from an automation thing. So what do you want from your servers? What do you want your server to be? Most people say, I want my server to be operational. Well, that's great, but security also impacts operational ability. And if you're only going to do a half-assed job of securing your servers, it's, you still have the other half of the ass to worry about. And I always like this here. Never half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing. So if you're going to secure your servers, whole-ass the whole thing. Now, with baselines, so if your baseline isn't secure and you're rolling out insecure baselines, well, you've got servers that are insecure. And that just makes them a target and easily compromisable. Anyone here use Amazon AWS? I really shouldn't be using this example. We're recording this, yeah? Awesome. Amazon AWS, once you spin up an AMI instance, is it fully patched? No. Whose responsibility is that? Amazon says it's yours. Actually, Amazon says it's the provider of the image, and the provider of the image says, no, it's the end user, because they're the administrators of the system. So if you just spin up a Linux instance for short-term work, development work, anything like that, you have a really out-of-date server that's out there on the internet with no root password, no preventions of preventing someone to sudo to root, or SU, things to think about. So let's say we fix a couple of the problems, we half-ass it. Well, we fix a whole bunch of problems by half-assing it, but that just means it buys us a little time, maybe, unless we have targeted attacks. So we're still going to get the attackers out there, plug in our systems, automated script kiddie, automated attack suites, malware, just hammering these systems, looking for a way in if it's not a targeted attack. If it's a targeted attack, there's no guarantee that this half-assed approach is going to buy you that much more time, because they're going to look for whatever's exploitable and exploit it. Now, if we have a gold image that we keep up to date and we secure, we can roll out secure servers. Now, this is that whole continuous deployment model, but for server images, not for applications or processes. It's the actual server. So we're continuously updating our gold master image and rolling it out to servers so that we are secure and we are at least up to date. This is the bare minimum, the absolute bare minimum that we should be striving for. The benefit of keeping this gold master up to date is, hey, if we're in a highly operational environment where we always have to be up, we can just incrementally roll updates. We can just shut down servers, or we can spin up new servers, put this gold image out there, redirect traffic there, and then just overwrite those old unpatched servers. So we're not just continuously patching. Working at this bank in Bermuda, for example, it's the kind of place where there wasn't really a gold image. They'd send the new kid down with CD to do an install on a server, and then they'd run updates, and there'd be no real semblance of equality across all the different servers. They were all at various patch levels, various configurations based on the application. It was a nightmare, absolute nightmare. And a lot of people are rolling out their cloud instances the same way. They're just firing them up, leaving them going, see what happens. Wild West. Now what you came here for, Puppet. Now, like I said, I'm an enthusiast. So I haven't, and with only 30 minutes, I didn't really go through and say, okay, here's all the code that we're gonna do to protect this server. So my goal, really, this is kind of going to be a two-part if they have me come back next year. So as I am learning, and maybe some of you guys can help me, guys and girls can help me over the year to create some sort of automated baselining functions and scripts to get these servers or to get these images in a state of security. And these are the top 5 that I would really like us all to address. Again, bare minimum, baseline. I want to disable unnecessary services, remove unneeded packages, restrict access to files and directories, remove insecure default configurations, allow administrative access only from trusted servers and clients. Does this seem like too much to ask? Like, does this seem like a really hard thing to do, or kind of common sense? Because if you've read any documentation from NIST, from the NSA, from Microsoft, from anywhere, they kind of list these as kind of general best practices or better practices. These are things that just make sense. Why don't we do it? So the first thing, why do we want to shut down services? Why would we shut down services that we don't need? Anyone?
Because they're attack vectors for reduced surface area.
Exactly, reduce the attack surface area. They're an increase of the attack surface area. That's like playing football without your shoulder pads. Could dislocate your shoulder. I've dislocated my shoulder. It's not a pleasant experience. Whenever it rains now, my shoulder aches. And I bitch and moan, and my wife gives me a hard time. So just shut them down. Shut down Telnet. Who uses Telnet? I actually did a scan of the Amazon AWS space of IPs, and their people went out of their way to put Telnet on these Linux servers. They went out of their way to do this. I couldn't believe it. I know that some applications require Telnet for like updating and stuff, but come on, it's 2012. Change your code. Our services. Pretty sure we don't need rsync or anything like that on the servers anymore. FTPD, well, we have better versions of file transfer protocols now that are secure, that are certified. I was looking through, so Puppet Cookbook, the Puppet Labs docs. These are really great resources to show you how to stop the services on boot, to make sure they're stopped, and also, you know, the type references for actually configuring this. This is probably the simplest thing that you could do. But why are we keeping those services on there if they're not being used? If we're never going to use them, why don't we remove those packages? Do we need the Telnet package on there? Highly unlikely. Could we add it later? Yeah, we could. Do we need it right now? Most likely not. If we have a web server, if we have a web server that doesn't use PHP, Apache, remove those. We don't need that on there. You would have had to go out of your way to install it on there, especially for like Amazon Cloud instances. Why keep them on there? Delete them if you're not going to have a web service up, like WebDAV. We don't need that anymore. MySQL Postgres. Well, if you're using MongoDB, why would you even have these on there if you're not using them? Or if you're using some other database package. It doesn't make sense to keep these on there. So if you take a look at these two here, Puppet Cookbook, very simple on how to remove the package. Again, types here. It's very simple to show you how to remove packages, and really this is hand in hand with the first slide. The other no-brainer. This seems to be very simple. Reducing your attack surface area, disable services, remove packages you do not need anymore. Oh yeah, restrict access to sensitive files and directories. Who here started on Unix in their first life? No-brainer. You know, you want to restrict access to files. It's need to know, need to access basis. Why not use Puppet to go through and start locking down all of those files? And as soon as someone tries to change them, we'll just, we'll change them back. We'll just keep changing them back, and it'll really piss people off. I don't know if you guys were in the Splunk talk, but it was along the lines of, oh yeah, someone edited the sudoers file, and then I went in to try an SSH, and I couldn't Or I tried to sudo and it wouldn't work, and then I had to keep calling back and they'd keep changing it, but Puppet kept overwriting the config over and over again. Good from a security standpoint, maybe not the most helpful of things, but it's, you know, these are the kind of things that could really help you protect your environment. Common directories, common files, shadow, SSHD config. These are things that you need to protect. You don't want people messing around with these things. Same with bar temp/temp, people storing things in there, such as malicious files, files they want to transfer out. You can, on a compromised system, it's always fun to watch these two directories, var temp and temp, just to see what kind of pops up in there. This is actually this NSA document. This Red Hat 5 guide will give you a lot of recommendations on your file and directory attributes, along with all the commands as well. So very helpful as a reference guide, and very applicable to all Linuxes. Remove insecure default configurations. Anyone here still use SSH v1 on their servers? Still installed by default, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. So it's installed by default. Hey, let's just force v2 because it's 2012. We can probably safely force everyone to use v2 now for the client connections. Apache, minimize loadable module. Do we need to load everything just in case someday we might need it? No. We want to reduce the attack surface area, so we're only going to load those things that we need. Server tokens and server signature directives. Does anyone not disable these on their web servers if they're using Apache? Because using this, someone can easily tell what version of Apache you're using. They can take that, in hand with Metasploit or even the National Vulnerability Database, unless I crash it, you can find out what vulnerabilities are present in that particular version. So very simple, something you want to disable. These were probably the 3 most helpful things I found on PuppetForge on how to change default configurations, or at least monitor the default configurations. And they're just contributions that people have made. Very helpful. Kind of sets the base of everything going forward. Isn't that a great picture? Has anyone seen the new SSH shirts? They actually trademark like SSHIT for the t-shirts. Pretty good. Why do we want to allow administrative access for the world? Why don't we restrict SSH and other remote access services to the IPs that we know we're going to be coming from? I know not always the easiest thing to do from day one, especially if you have a mobile workforce, but there are solutions around that. But why not restrict it day one to your corporate network so that only your server admins can SSH into the box and change things? Again, kind of makes sense. Anyone guilty of allowing server hopping? Oh, I'll just jump onto my MySQL server and then I'll just bounce over to this server and then over to this server and over to this server. This was great. This was a lifesaver in case you ever locked yourself out. But bad security practice because, hey, I can just hop around. This is great. If you look at these 3 PuppetForge contribution entries, show you how to configure your firewalls, show you how to deny specific hosts. And I know I'm running out of time because you're standing up. If only we had more time. How's that? So these are some more documents. I assume that I'm probably going to be posting this somewhere that everyone can download the slides from. So don't feel that you have to type these out. These are just very well-known, very highly used by government and private public industry for hardening servers. So security of your servers, not just cloud servers, physical servers, your responsibility. Security, especially in the cloud, is real. If you take a look at your logs, see you, Gene. Look at your logs. These servers are going to be constantly hammered by automated tools. It's just like if you ever look at the logs from your home router, those things are ping sweeped and just scanned constantly. So this whole concept of best and better practice really does make your life easier. And in the end, isn't this why we started doing automation, is to make our lives easier? I remember when I started out in doing Linux administration, it was a series of really complicated bash shell scripts that were hard to maintain but made my life easier until I forgot, like 2 years ago, I made this change and then I forgot exactly how to do like an if statement, and like, oh, it was just a nightmare. So automation, definitely our friend. So I said I'm from CloudPassage. So what we do is we have a security product that will install daemon on your host, this newly secured host, and will help you manage firewalls, manage your accounts, do file integrity monitoring, pretty much everything you see here, vulnerability scanning. So this on its own, very helpful, but why not put it on a very secure foundation such as a secure baseline? That'll make this part so much more easier and so much more manageable. I know we're kind of running out of questions and everyone probably really wants to go on break, but I'm going to be around. Stop me, ask me questions. We're hiring. If anyone needs a job in lovely San Francisco, we're just right around the corner. Follow me on Twitter, send me an email. Definitely ask me. We actually have some Puppet code specifically for Halo to deploy our daemon and manage it. And we didn't put it up there. These are 2 people that use our product. They just said, oh yeah, hey, we use Puppet, so we're gonna start putting code up and we're gonna roll you into what we do on a day-to-day basis. I'm also going to do a webinar in the near future about kind of tying automation and security closer in. So I'm going to cover, Puppet, Chef, CF Engine, all of the other products to do automation and how it kind of syncs up with security a little bit better. So yeah, follow the CloudPassage Twitter account because I honestly have no idea when I'm going to have time to do the webinar, but it will be soon. It's probably going to be this quarter. And with that, thanks for coming to the talk. Any questions, please feel free to find me. I'm easy to spot, and I'm around. Any questions? Anyone have any questions now? Thank you. No. Thanks.